Everyone, welcome to IT Live, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Texas Homer, joined by Coach Dub and Eric Nalin. We're going to talk about the Texas Longhorns football team, specifically wide receivers to start. But you guys, throw all your comments into the chat. We want to hear from you. Let us know what you want to know about. First, head over to Inside Texas right now, guys. You can join for just $1. New members only. Old members, we appreciate you being there already. I think we got a good one to start. Utah Horn, thank you. This is a helping L. Seymour's case donation. We really appreciate that as he figures out his waiver potential to join the Texas Longhorns. We will get that into the right hands, most certainly. I mean, I'm gonna take a little bit off the top, Utah Horn, but I'll make sure that it gets there, and definitely in spirit, it'll get there, man. All right, good morning, Roaster. Still can't believe Seymour is a Horn. Can't believe this is my life. We'll have to see. Joe wrote a really in-depth, investigative piece on the history of this weird waiver. So we'll see what happens there, man. Do you have any thoughts? It's a weird. Texas has to be confident, right? Or else why would you sign?
Yeah, these are my least favorite topics. Like it's I didn't go to law school.
But you're playing on YouTube, dude.
I don't think Texas would have taken them if they would have had this issue. Except they didn't. What else were they going to do? It's not like the place was pouring over with guards.
Yeah.
But I do think that kind of hurt his market a little bit. You've got that. Plus, he's not going to arrive until the summer. That's going to ding him. But I don't know. Whatever happens.
Yeah, we'll see. He's a good player, so I'm excited about it. But yeah, it's a kind of a weird one for sure. You ready to talk wide receivers?
Yeah, let's talk the guys that are on the team right now. That's spring ball is going to be what? Yeah, 5 weeks away. Starts on March 9th, I believe.
Yep. Let's start with turnover. DeAndre Moore out of here. Where'd he go? Colorado, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Colorado, huh? Interesting. And then of course Parker Livingston goes to the bad guys. And both have talent and both are gone in part due to economic factors. What a shame. All right. How is this group going to win? Let's start with the newest addition out of Wake Forest. A very proper name, Sterling Burkhalter.
Yeah.
That's an incredible name. But what do you guys think about him as the latest add to the room?
I mean, he kind of looked like the Wake Forest logo, right? With that name. That name could go with that logo.
Yep. Yeah, it sounds like if you were watching like an old-timey show, like Sterling Burkhalter of Wake Forest.
Sounds like a guy that would have went to Vandy or Stanford, anywhere else, but yeah.
Yeah. So, Eric, you say here in the boundary. What else do you think about him, man?
Yeah, he's just a big physical presence, pretty athletic, not explosive necessarily, can win 50-50 catches, and is a really good backup for Coleman, or maybe if Burkhalter still has to compete with probably Khalil Lockett at that position. So this is just, I wouldn't say he's a better player than an insurance player. It's not like taking Tariq Milton, who I think had like one target when he was there. He's better than that. He could play. You can go in and win a bowl game with him starting at receiver if need be. So I don't want to call him insurance, but it's definitely it's a good take. They wanted two receivers. I thought that they might go with a slot as opposed to another outside guy, but I think they just kind of went best available because they can move the other parts around even if they can't move him around.
True. Yeah, the depth at slot from your depth chart later on, it's like you don't really need a slot if that's how you're going to play that position. Cam Coleman, Coach, what do you think about the addition?
Yeah, best available receiver in the portal, man. I mean, it's Cam Coleman, man. Come on. 50-50 ball winner, even though he only ran 4 routes at Auburn, not because it was his fault or anything like that. The offense is kind of terrible, but it's what he does for everybody else on the team. Like, he's going to have so much attention, so many eyes on him. Everybody else is going to be open. You can run the ball. Even your tight end from Michigan State may catch a few passes because he'll be wide open because of Cam Coleman. Like, he just does he opens up this offense so much, man, and it's just a great piece to have. And then he can win his matchups when he gets them one-on-one.
Yeah, normally when you talk about the receivers that can climb the ladder, you're talking about like a Garrett Wilson who's like 6 foot tall and they're making up for like lack of height. He's 6'3" and can still climb the ladder. Just a springy guy. I think there's going to be better yak opportunity than we've seen. He got bad service last year when he was open deep. The ball wasn't there. I think he's going to be a better yak receiver, and he's going to have to really hone in on that on his route running, which he has the traits for it. It just needs to, like Coach said, he hasn't done a whole lot, not a lot of route tree diversity. That's going to affect his draft grade. Obviously he's an NFL player, first rounder, just based on the gifts and the fact that he can win over, he can dunk on anybody's head. But he's got to be able to win on the ground too. But I do think he's a better athlete as far as after the catch than we've seen so far. I think he's going to help. That space that he creates for others, well, some others are going to be creating that for him as well, especially if they get the play action game going.
Yeah, I watched, broke down 4 games of tape on him, and he ran across the field one time. It's insane how poorly used he was. It was all just fade, and if the guy plays off, now you sit down or you do a little slant. So that's on coaching, man. And so he's going to have it. Even though he had really bad yak, it's because all of his routes were designed to not continue after the catch.
Yeah.
So now all Sark has to do is run him across the field, and now the yak opportunities are there. And he can do, I have no problem with his route running on those 4. It hasn't been an issue. It's just he's going to have to expand the tree in general, but he can do it. He just wasn't asked to do it.
Right.
It was a weird situation there. And so,
he's gonna benefit greatly. He picked the right school. I think that all plays into it. Now hopefully Arch can hit him on a mesh or something, but it's gonna be there. It's gonna be there for him. I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to hear about how spring ball goes with him.
Yeah, I think he's gonna get the start. That's my projection.
Good chance.
Yeah, I think he's gonna start. All right. Ryan Wingo, Mismatch Hunter. It sounds like a movie title. Maybe the best perimeter wide receiver in the country. Yep. A yak monster. Yep.
Yeah.
So, first let's talk about what we know he can do, and then what the next step for Wingo is. Coach, what can Wingo do?
Well, we saw late, I guess, middle of the season to the end, the quick bubble screens. So he can take those to the house. He can make guys miss. I don't think DBs want to tackle him in open space. That's a big dude. I don't know if anybody's been next to Ryan Wingo, but it's like a big running back. Once he catches the ball, so that's why yards after catch are so important with him, because he's good at it. If he can learn to track the ball down the field, man, he becomes like a threat. In deep part of the field, he's going to be dangerous, right? Because we know what he can do, intermediate passing game, behind the line of scrimmage. But if he gets learning how to track the ball deep down the field, man, he's going to be a triple threat. He's going to be hard to stop. So if that part of his game improves, man, you're looking at an absolute complete receiver in Wingo.
Yeah, and you saw it like in pieces. Like he made that really nice, stretched out hands catch versus Georgia. So it's like it's there. If you can just make that a consistent part of his game, and then route running as well on the deeper stuff, he has all the keys there.
Yeah.
But even regardless, say he doesn't take that step, you still have what Eric refers to as like vertical Coleman, horizontal Wingo. So the field is stretched both ways, and that's going to be a huge compliment.
Yeah, I think he's got the vertical game, even if it's just a straight go route, because he's got the speed. That same speed that he's dusting people on yak, he's got that to go vertical as well. We just didn't, Texas had to abandon that this year because they couldn't pass protect. That's a strength of Arch. That's the whole goal is to be able to throw deep. He can still win vertically and track the ball. I think he had one drop earlier, and then Arch missed him a time or two. Mm-hmm. And along with that ball that he adjusted to against Georgia, he had that good adjustment against A&M for a touchdown too. But yeah, he's got to be better overall. I think the middle parts of the route tree, I think he struggles with a little bit. Tracking the ball, coming back to it, all stuff. He's a work in progress in that regard, but he's an absolute stud with the ball in his hands. Like you said, nobody wants to tackle him. He's got that downhill velocity. Each step just adds more power to the next. And I think there's still more meat on the bone to develop. I think he's going to benefit from Coleman. Coleman's going to benefit from him. It's just a bunch of positive returns. But I'm still bullish on Wingo. He just wasn't as complete as I had thought or expected. But the elements are there. And the bare bones to build around as far as him on the perimeter game. Sark, I think, finally got around to understanding what Ryan Wingo is really good at. That's still going to be an element to the playbook, hopefully a foundational element to the playbook.
Yeah, everything that I get on Wingo for are taught skills, right? So it's not like he's lacking something that he can't make up for. And is he out for the spring? Is he in that group?
No, I think he's going to participate in the spring.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's important because it's like, damn, we can never get him a full.
Let me check my text messages on that. Hold on a second. You guys keep going.
Okay, cool. Emmett Mosley, slot.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
he goes back to where he was at Stanford, right? Like where he dominated pretty much a freshman All-American. Like having him outside, he can do that, but having him in the slot one-on-one, I think that's where his niche is. He's gonna destroy safeties and linebackers and nickels or going across the middle. Like he's savvy. He understands where to get, in the passing windows and versus zone. So then you can use him to be the extra blocker, right? He can crack back on somebody. I mean, he can do it all. I think slot is his position. So with the attention being outside, I think we can actually see the slot receiver receive a lot of targets this year just because the attention outside is so heavy from defenses. But Emmett Mosley fits in the slot perfectly.
he's the most skilled of our returning guys. And what's interesting because he was still young too, but he's by far the most skilled. And so he in the slot, I really like that. He's going to be able to set guys up, all of that stuff. He really understands the game within the game of wide receiver, which really unlocks your talents. So him at slot, I really like that potential starting lineup that we have there, just with different skill sets of like a Cam Coleman, Mosley, and a Wingo. They're all unique players that can kill you in a different way. And I think that's going to be really, really big.
Yeah, Wingo's full go for spring. Yeah, mostly will disappear on a DB. DB's running with him, give a head fake one way, DB starts going that way, gets the hips going the wrong way, he's going the other way. Once he's fully on the same page with Arch, that becomes devastating. And then he's got the catch radius, the toughness. Obviously not the fastest guy that we've ever seen, but fast enough. And that slot receiver, unless you're like a true vertical guy, you don't necessarily have to be a burner. There's a lot of field to exploit. And then that perimeter blocking is something I think is going to be a very big addition, especially with the way we think the run game sets up. Perimeter blocking is going to be even more important. So I'm excited about him there, but I'm also excited about the guy who I think is going to back him up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Day, huh? McCutcheon, something that Texas coaches have been super excited about behind the scenes consistently. Still need to see it on the field, but another year is going to do him well. Coach, I know you're a big fan, so give us what you got.
Yeah, man, I love Day's game. I think this offseason is super important for him, right? So he can get a little bigger. Other than that, put some muscle on so people can't take, shots at him and try to take his head off. But other than that, like Day, I think he's gonna, the game will slow down a little bit more. He's already shown that he can play as a freshman, which is hard to do to get on the field for Sarkisian at a receiver as a freshman. So he's shown that he can pick up the playbook and learn what he's supposed to do. But if the game slows down and he can see the field even better, I think he's going to be a perfect option for a backup behind Mosley, depending on how those guys rotate. But, man, another guy, if you put him one-on-one in the slot versus somebody, I think he'll destroy a safety or a nickelback. You can run slot fade with him. He doesn't mind going across the middle, and he can make somebody miss after the catch. So I like him. If he can get a little bigger and then, willing to block, I think he would help become a complete receiver too, down the road. But I love him, as a rotation piece right now.
Yeah, he's got the willingness to block and, more vertical presence than I think Mosley. We talked about Mosley being able to win deep in the ways he does, but McCutcheon's got him a little more giddy up to him. Really complete player, just needs a little more time, can play outside as well. But like I said, if they want to set up a slot fade, you're more likely to run that with McCutcheon than Mosley.
Any freshman or transfer player surprising so far in winter workouts?
I've mentioned a couple freshmen, the freshmen that they're already high on, like Atkinson and Bishop, of course. The last update I had, it was just mainly focusing on the whole team, what they're all going through together, the changes in the workout structure, the important changes in the workout structure and stuff like that. We'll get a little bit more data. They've barely got it. They've barely been doing anything. They are running and doing field drills and stuff like that, but not a whole lot. I'll get some more updates in the next week or two. I just need more data, more time for them actually doing stuff.
What were the important changes in the workout structure?
Just adding, going for much more strength. Lifting higher weights for lower volume. Doing the most basic strength lifts like back squat, that sort of thing. Pretty sure we covered that on Friday. But yeah, it's kind of a back to basics strength and conditioning block. These next 5 weeks are clearly the goal is to get back to the most foundational lifts and lift heavier.
All right. And then who are grouped together? You mentioned that too, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, you got the linebackers and the DBs. You've got the wide receiver, running back, and quarterback. You've got the tight end, edge, O-line, and DL. I like the fact that the tight ends are with the offensive line and the big boys because, man, you gotta block. You can't have those guys with the head on with the linebackers before. And sort of the smaller groups, the running backs. So they've got them with the bigs now, which I think is key. And that big group is lifting 5 days a week rather than 4. I think that's another good thing too. So there's a lot of, I would say they're probably minor tweaks if you barely pay attention, but I think they're pretty big tweaks compared to what the team's been lacking the last year or two as far as just strength at the point of attack. I think they're making some really good adjustments here.
Yeah, those are not minor tweaks. those are huge things. And then they're also keeping up the hellacious running style that they have to keep up too.
Yeah, Texas has the probably the best reputation as far as just the grueling efforts they go to in sprints, agility stuff. Not running like Marine Corps, like you see Police Academy, just jogging at a very slow pace. It's like they're really getting after it. And like I said, we've heard a lot of feedback. They've had guys come from Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, and everybody says that nobody runs like they do at the University of Texas. And I think that speed shows up on the field pretty frequently.
I think the conditioning aspect does too. I've never with Texas, I've never we're gassed. Sometimes on the lines, like offensive line, I'm like, we're not strong enough, but I've never been like, we're hands on hips, like they're gonna kill us type of thing.
Yeah, it's been few and far between. Usually that was when the defense was on the field way too much earlier in Sark's tenure, when the offense would go 3 and out, and then the defense would give up a 12-play drive, and then the offense would go 3 and out, and then they're back on the field for 10 plays. Now they're just so much deeper. They rotate a lot. So even when those guys are tired, they've got a replacement that's pretty equal to them.
Yeah. Coach, were you going to say something? It sounded like for a second you were.
No, I'm just saying, when it comes to offseason, I'm glad they made the change. I thought Eric, when he put in his back squats, I said he had me right there. He had my heart right there. I want to see people get stronger, man, in the trenches. Like, squats are so important. I'm glad. I'm not saying go full Yancey McKnight, but man, having back squats is important.
Yeah, they were still squatting, doing squat variations, but it would be front squats. A lot of the lifts they were doing were really, really, really good complementary lifts. You need the foundations in place, and I think they're getting back to the basics in that, and that's a good thing.
All right, guys, before we keep going, let's hear a word from Academy.
Fast one.
Same day delivery powered by DoorDash.
Next up, a player I'm really, really excited for, Khaleke Lockett. This is someone in high school. This is also just my bias and what I like in receivers. I like downfield guys that can win contested catches, and he did that. Incredible body control. Really liked what he was able to do on that fade. I think Khaleke has a really bright future. I want him to get integrated as much as possible. Yeah, period. If we can get him in there. It's almost like I'm trying to figure out ways to get him on the field. And I think right behind Coleman is really solid if the newest addition doesn't alter that at all. Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, I think an underrated aspect of him is that he's got the ability to be a really good route runner. He can go top of stem, cut 90 degrees on one foot right on time. Not a lot of guys can do it as easily as he can. He's got much bigger size than I think you would expect out of somebody that's listed at 6'1.5" or whatever. He's got really long arms.
I would have thought he was 6'3", man.
Yeah, he plays like he's 6'3". He's kind of like a smaller Cam Coleman because he'll go up and get it. Acrobatic. He's going to make some one-handed catches. You saw the back shoulder that he caught against Michigan, showed good timing. He's got a good feel for the position, just a pretty natural player. And also one thing that he's known for behind the scenes is physicality. Now, he still has to get stronger. He's on the leaner, wiry side. That's just a younger player. But a lot of people will talk about his physicality and his intelligence as far as a route runner. So he's got some of that savvy too of Mosley. So yeah, this is going to be a really good year for him before probably the breakout in 2027. I'm not trying to minimize his role this year. He's going to play a lot. Obviously, they wouldn't have let Parker Livingston leave if they didn't think they were going to just plug and play Khaleke. But yeah, it's probably not going to be the breakout that everybody's always crying about the 5 stars. Why aren't the 5 stars playing? Well, I mean, look what he's got in front of him. That's why.
Yeah, you got Cam Coleman. I don't care about his ranking. I just care that I think he's a baller, and that's why I want to see him.
Yeah, and you got to develop him. There's no doubt about it, and you got to play him. These guys aren't going to sit around forever. But yeah, it's going to be a good year for him, but probably not the breakout. And the reason for that is you've got a guy that's getting ready to go top 10 in the NFL draft. You've got another guy on the other side that's highly rated and highly dangerous as far as an outside receiver. So we just want to see Khaleke flash more like he did in the Citrus Bowl, and I'm pretty sure we're going to do that, and we're probably going to hear a lot about him in the spring.
Yeah, Sark, run up score. I want to see these guys, man. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to be up 14 playing psychological warfare with the other coach. Run up, score, and get these guys on the football field.
Yeah, I know that's your boy Homer Lockett is. It's just watching him from where he is now, where he was in high school. I always thought he had the traits, he had the physical tools, the body size. I always said I want to see some more development because I was, just watch him in high school. Sometimes like he should be dominating kids, and then he wouldn't dominate a kid. Didn't he have a great game? It's like he was kind of hard to read for me, but you can see the traits. But I think he can become. And I'm not calling him Dez Bryant, but I feel like he can kind of grow. Like he's a bigger body receiver. Like, he can go up and get the ball like Dez. Like if he puts it all together and puts a little more weight on, I think he's that type of receiver where he's physical. And he won't be, he can win the 50-50 balls and position his body right, make the acrobatic catches. Like he has those kind of traits, but if he puts it all together, man, he can be a really dangerous weapon on the outside if he continues to grow.
That's the rarest trait, man. That's a wide receiver. Like, it's like whenever people are looking for all these things, I'm like, guys, look for the guy who can catch the ball in unique situations. Like that's what the position is. Like you can teach skill, you can add weight, man, but a lot of times people are looking at every trait besides how well do they catch the football, and it drives me nuts. All right, let's see what he has. Strong hands at the catch point. Yep. Oh, here we go. Michael Terry. He's the upset. It was DJ Campbell one year was an obsession player. Malik Murphy got some obsession player. Michael Terry is definitely that.
Jonte Cook was the most obsessed ever.
Yeah, there's always one that we get asked about. But will they play Michael Terry as an H-back kind of Deebo Samuel role?
I said at the bottom of this piece, or after I go through this group of guys, that I'm still working on the assumption that Ryan Niblett and Michael Terry are at running back. Until I hear otherwise, that's what I'm going with. Now, can he do that? Yeah, that's a really good fit for him. He's got size and physicality, good hands, got good sort of football character knowledge, that sort of thing. He's a pretty complete guy. He just needs time at one position and needs time to develop skill. That's always been my issue with him, dating back to high school when he's highly rated athlete. It kind of seemed like defense was the easiest transition for him because he doesn't really profile as a Sark offensive weapon, at least not yet. Now he's getting some valuable playing time in practice. They've given him some wildcat looks, that sort of thing. But he's not somebody that I have a clear understanding of what he's going to do this year, and therefore I would probably sell these questions for a year, but we'll see.
What's weird is when we did a deep dive on it on which positions out of the recruiting services get drafted at the highest rate, number one was athlete.
Right, but you've got to have
no. What I'm saying, but you have to select how you're going to deploy the athlete. So it's like we haven't figured that part out yet. It's like, but you have to pick a position or a role and really commit to it, and you can't be bouncing rules back and forward the whole time for sure. So it's
not every athlete picks even the right side of the ball to play on. A lot of the athletes that don't make it are like, oh, I'm going to play wide receiver. Well, you're 6 foot, 190 pounds. Why don't you go play corner?
Yeah.
Man, we had that. Tyler Atkinson in the future playing like will linebacker, like Michael Terry. If he played defensive side of football, I think it's a higher ceiling. I mean, you put him on defense side, I think you really got something.
That's where I would have. That's where I liked him in college, and that's why I faded him at Texas because I just didn't see him. I didn't see the vision for him on offense at Texas. Now I'm not giving up on the dude.
Right.
That's just watch what Steve Sarkisian does on offense. Go look at Michael Terry and see. All right, well, where does he fit? He could be a bigger little Jordan Humphrey, but that's not really what Sark is looking for. Tom Herman, we know what Tom Herman would have done. He would have fed the slot 10 times a game. But yeah, to me, when you just see the tape on Michael Terry, you dream about him on defense.
But you've got the gadget skill set. Generally, when you're trying to figure out a gadget, it's because you're trying to get a speed guy on the field. But it's like both your backs are fast, so there's not even like a ton of reason why you would need to search out. Like with Niblett, I get it because basically they love Niblett, and so they're just like, how can we get him touches to repay him for what he does in special teams? But it's like, it's not like we're missing that fast guy that we can throw into the flats, and you have Wingo in the screen game. So it's like, I don't really see the need for a gadget style player either.
Well, yeah. And top of it, you got the quarterback that can pound it downhill too, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times you would bring that guy in just to run it. So yeah, I don't know. I like what I hear about Terry, and the guy, he's a popular guy in the locker room. He works hard. He's talented for sure. It's just, what's the fit, man? You got to have the fit.
And he flashes. We had that clip from one of those open practices of him running a route just like a seam from the slot, and I was like, "Damn, I didn't know he could move like that." But you just gotta figure it out, man, and rep it.
Hey, Isaiah Simmons, who went to Clemson, started as a receiver too before they moved him linebacker / safety. So I'm just saying.
I just hate it when these guys figure it out at the next school. You know, it's like Jaquindon Jackson. Why don't you just, if you're gonna go be a running back, just stay at Texas, dude. Don't go to Utah. What are you doing? You know, you see that a lot. They don't figure it out till the next stop. And again, that's not giving up on him. But even if he's an H back, they've got Nick Townsend. You know, they've got Nick Townsend, and they love Emery Winston as far as like the 12 personnel tight end that does a little bit of everything.
Well, you're in a tough spot, right? Because you're not better than the wide receivers that are pure wide receivers. You're not better than the running backs that are pure running backs. You're not better than the tight ends that are pure tight ends. So it's like you got to figure out
right
here.
Yep. So
that's not.
We should start every video with the Michael Terry proviso.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Sorry
to the Terry heads out there, man. All right, Jermaine Bishop, really exciting player. Didn't he win like high school player of the Texas high school player? Yeah.
Yes.
He went off
the 4-star. I don't know. That's crazy to me.
What did he do this season in high school? I just kept hearing he had a crazy year. He
dominated.
Was like,
he was defense, return game. Like he did it all, man.
Led his team deep to the playoffs.
And when I saw his defensive reps, I think from his junior year, like he's fun on defense too. Like this is just an all around kind of football player. He has all those abilities. Now, what's tough for me is like he's slotted as basically like the third string slot. And I keep saying it. I've never seen a third string slot play for Sark. So I guess they're going to have to find a defined role for him, right? Because he's not going to naturally come about in the lineup.
Well, they can move Dalen outside. Dalen could be the backup to Wingo. And Lockett can be the backup to Coleman. It works. I'm not always going to bat 100%. It's kind of like, Eric, you pick Texas to win every week. Well, I mean, I'm going 10-2, or whatever. This year I went 10-3. I'll take it.
Yeah, I asked you at the end of last season. I was like, did you pick Texas every single week here? And he's like, yeah, it still averages out to being getting dubs, man.
Yeah. So I'm not going to be right on all of them, but I know that they want to get. Obviously, we know they got to get Dalen on the field, but they've got to integrate Bishop. The best way to integrate a young wide receiver is that slot. Especially when you got Wingo out there. So yeah, he's going to play. Bishop is going to play. There's no doubt about it. It's one of their three most talked about true freshmen, along with Atkinson and Derek Cooper. The guy's going to play. And another guy that's like, damn, you'd love to put him at punt return, but you got an All-American punt returner back there. So yeah. These are some good first world problems to have.
Also, what did we learn from kind of this last offseason? It's like, hey, man, if you're a highly recruited player, which generally is a proxy for a highly paid player, they want to see you get action soon, right? Or they basically cut you after the season. So it's like when you're hearing these big players with this new strategy, it's kind of looking like, hey, we're going to find ways to integrate these guys. So it's actually a good sign and a good way to motivate them to play these younger players.
Yeah, he just needs a few touches. You see him get in for a jet sweep and he takes it to the house, 80 yards, one of his first touches.
Why can't he? Why slot? Why can't he play Z? Because to me, I'm like, I think he'd be a great Z, but everyone's just like, he's a slot. And I'm like, oh, but yeah, but why can't he play?
No, he can't. He can play. He can't. We talked about this. He can play that. It's just you've got Wingo there. Are you more likely?
So what I'm trying to do here's the master plan. I'm coaching the Texas Longhorns. Cam Coleman, boundary, followed by Lockett. Okay. Then you're going to have Mosley and you're going to have McCutcheon, and then you're going to have Wingo and you're going to have Bishop. Now everyone on the 2 deep is there. No one's in the 3 deep, meaning I will never see them. So it's like I'm trying to create positions to where I can actually see all these receivers that I like and want to see reps. That's the only reason I'm moving them around like that.
Yeah, my issue is I think Burkhalter is probably too good to not back up Coleman. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I just like if it's on defense, I'd feel great about it. Like all the guys are going to get plenty of reps, but wide receiver is the one position where it's like you see your starting 3 almost exclusively. So it's like want to integrate them in. David Keith Williams asks, Eric, considering Texas could have the nation's best offensive tackle duo in Trev Goosby and Melvin Siani, an All-American OG, assuming Lawrence Seymour's eligibility issues are resolved, one of the nation's more athletic offensive guards moving from right tackle and Brandon Baker, and a returning starting center in Connor Robertson. Do you think the O-line will be a position of strength for Texas in 2026?
Oh my gosh. No, not relatively. I mean, I don't think they're going to be stronger than the running backs behind them, the quarterback behind them. And shoot, I really like that tight end duo, and I like the receivers. So I can't call it a position of strength. We want it to not be a position of weakness. If they can be,
Position of average, we will be in a great spot.
Top third in the SEC would be a major win. If they're top third in the SEC, Texas is going to be flying high this year. So I don't think it can be a position of strength. But I mean, you've got who I think is the best quarterback in the country, a really, really strong running back duo. The tight end group, I love that the starting tight end group. Masunis is flying under the radar. Nick Townsend, I like Nick Townsend like Homer thinks he likes Khalil Lockett. And then you got the wide receiver group, which you're talking about right now, which is pretty damn loaded. So it's tough to call them a position of strength. Let's just make sure that they're better than league average, and Texas is going to be perfectly fine on offense.
Yeah. Avoid disaster, and you're great. Great offensive lines on their floor, and as long as the floor is high enough, you're all good, man.
We got a lot to learn about it, and I'm unfortunately we're not going to learn about it in the spring, right? Goosby's out for the spring. Baker's going to be moving around. Seymour won't be there. So, geez, man, there's a lot to learn about this team during the spring. I'm not sure how much we're going to learn about the offensive line.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not even going to be able to mesh together and get that cohesiveness in the spring. So, yeah, this is one that we will see in the fall about how that goes down. You'll see it week 2. I was going to say you might not even see till week 5. All right, Chris Stewart, slot, field, well-rounded. So this is a group with like Stewart and Brown, where I thought Chris Jackson was like starting to sort for like wide receiver, right? Like well-rounded, as you say here. Like they had good route, they would block. It wasn't just pure like, does this guy run a 4-1?
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought the evals kind of changed at wide receiver, which I really appreciated. These are the things I look for. So shout out Chris Jackson there. But first things first on Chris Stewart, what do y'all think?
Well, I mean, the first reason they offered him was his play speed. His play speed as a sophomore was really good. He missed. I don't think he really ever participated in track. I think he did earlier, and focused on football during the spring. I think he twisted an ankle a couple times, and it just. I really would love to see that guy train for the 100 and see what he'd run, because I think fans would appreciate him a little more. He doesn't lack speed, but he is.
What do you think he's at? You think he's like a 10-4 guy, 10-5?
No, I don't think he's that fast, but
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he'd be 10-8, maybe 10-7. He's like I said, well-rounded player, can play inside or outside. Kind of reminds me of the Steve Smith that Sark had at USC, not the Steve Smith, the Utah Carolina Panther great. Not talking that type of player, but just a really well-rounded player. Could play in the boundary once he learns, his releases to get off press in the boundary more often. Maybe not elite at anything, but I think he's really good across the board and played multiple positions in high school, has leadership. He's the leader at that team. He was a leader at Shadow Creek. Just really love the overall makeup of the dude. I think he's a good player. Tennessee was coming after him. Josh Heupel's got a pretty good eye, and Josh Heupel likes guys that can get vertical too. So I like that take. Like the kid. I think he's a good addition to the program for sure.
Yeah.
And I think he's one of those glue guys, right? I think we're going to hear some similar things we heard about McCutcheon with him, just because he trained and so he'll understand the game a lot faster than most kids as his age. But talk about play speed. I got a chance to see him live. I know it's 7-on-7, so most people don't count that. But seeing him at OT7 versus a lot of top athletes last year around this time, he was running by dudes and getting open versus some of the top DBs who have quote unquote a lot of speed, right? And so I think he plays a lot faster than whatever it kind of shows up or whatever people might think he is, but he can move, he can run. He can stop and start on a dime, man. He has some great agility, so I think he'd be a solid, guy with the numbers. Maybe he red shirts. I don't know. Maybe it's too early for that, but I think he'll actually be a player at Texas, man, just because he'll understand the game and how to get open. Just a savvy route runner, kind of like a smooth player.
Yeah. Cohen Brown. David Keith Williams says, I think Cohen Brown will be the biggest surprise on offense in the Longhorns 2026 recruiting class. I like Cohen Brown too. I thought he found space really well. I thought he understood defense as well. I don't know why, but there's just like one play versus the huddle where he finds the hole right before the safety and makes a nice play that's pretty much the only play I remember, because I was like, that's what I want to see. But if you talk about well-rounded, Eric has it too. And then even, could play defense, but all of that. Coach, you got something to say? Yeah.
And Cohen might be the most physical receiver in this group. He might be the biggest, most physically imposing one guy in there. I mean, I swear, he's like, look, you're getting a tough competitor in Cohen Brown. He's going to challenge some veteran upperclassman day one when he get on campus. Like, that's what kind of kid he is. He has that kind of mentality. So he's going to be out. I'm going to outwork everybody. I'm going to fight for everything that I get. He doesn't mind working. He's not going to be a guy that runs from any kind of competition or anything. Like, he does not care. He just wants to play. It doesn't matter where it's. He'll go down, he'll catch a touchdown, then get on kickoff team and go down and hit somebody. Like that's
that eval almost always works.
Man,
it's like that's almost always the kid you're gonna hear about from coaches and like that have that, like the Littleton. Like when you hear that eval, that I always remember when people say that about a player, because those guys just kind of find ways to make it work.
He's built up and not, man, I was thinking he's going to be a little bit stiffer than he was. He had a really good senior year. I don't know what happened with him in USC, but I compared him here to Tanuk Hines. I was very familiar with Tanuk. Now Tanuk is faster, but Cohen's not lacking speed. Cohen is more impressive to me than Tanuk, and Tanuk is about to have a big role at SC as a sophomore. So I like the addition. He could play inside or outside. You see him getting carries in high school. That kind of equates to the slot machine position where it's kind of a running back after the catch. But I was kind of surprised by his ability as an outside receiver too. So it's just, hey, get him on campus. Wide receiver is going to be his first stop. If for whatever reason it doesn't work out, the defense is an option. I'm not saying he's going to defense. Based on the tape, I don't think you have to move him. But I just like to say that, hey, that's there in case they ever need it.
But it also sounds like a kid you could move and then he has a great career. After
he could be an NFL safety, dude. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He could be an NFL safety without a doubt. There's much more risk to me of him playing wide receiver than defense.
Yeah, man. Cohen Brown is the fastest 26 recruit for Texas. Ran a 10.600, 6 foot, 195. Produced 1,000 receiving yards as a junior. He can return punts and kicks. He looks like a running back.
Yeah, he's just an all-around football player. I think you're right that we didn't talk about him enough. When I saw that he decommitted from USC or they kind of moved away from him, I'm like, all right, let me check out the highlights here. And I was like, damn. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did they let this guy walk? And that was his junior tape. And then his senior tape was even better. So I'm all aboard the Cohen Brown train too. Not sure exactly where he's going to end up, but I mean, that's because he's so good at so many things, not because he's not good at anything.
Yeah.
You put him in the locker room. I saw him catch a touchdown versus DeSoto, then line up and go cover Booby Feaster, like one-on-one in space by itself on the island. I was like, yeah, that's the type of player I want, right? Everybody else was shy away from that competition, but he wants it. He wants all the smoke. So, yeah, put him on my roster any day.
Yeah, I agree. When I watched this huddle, I was like, all right, well, this guy's a player. All right, so we got the depth chart. We kind of talked through that, but boundary, Coleman, Burkhalter, or Lockett. Slot, Mosley, McCutcheon, Bishop, Stewart. Field, Wingo, Lockett, Brown.
Yep, I left our guy Brown outside there, even though I think he could play slot. You could reverse him and Bishop long term. This depth chart is based more on 2026 and how I think it starts out.
Yeah,
not really looking long term beyond this season. We talked about Bishop. Yeah, I know that. I actually thought about you when I put him there third string, just because I knew you weren't going to like that. So that's why I should have bolded it. I should have bolded his name right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just like send me a different version of the article to read or something like that. That way I won't even see it. I've yet to see it. Every year we're like, Sark might rotate him more, and then nope. So I'll believe it when I see it with the wide receiver rotations. Final take. I feel good. I like this wide receiver room. I of course Cam Coleman, but I've been a big fan of Mosley. I'm really excited that he'll get starter reps. That's important. Wingo taking that next step is really big. He's an incredible athlete. If he turns in more into a skilled wide receiver, he's going to be really dangerous and go where he wants to go in the NFL. And then I like the depth too. So just this room overall, I feel better about, especially with Arch in another year being able to get the ball to him. Coach.
Yeah, I think you got so many different type of receivers in this room finally, right? I feel like you got some speed guys, you got some powerful guys, 50-50 ball winners, which I feel like we've been lacking, right? And getting Cam Coleman. So I think if Arch gets in a pinch, hey, just throw it up. One of those guys can come down with it. Like that's always good to have. But I also feel like you got that guy, you can just give a little 5-yard hitch. He can make 3 or 4 people miss and then go to the house. I think that's been missing since maybe Worthy, in my opinion. So I feel like we got that back. And I know Bishop's young, but man, he has that kind of talent. So
Yeah, this I don't know. Just hearing you guys talk about it has me thinking, man, football season's a long way away. Yeah, I'm excited. I love like you said, not enough help for the quarterback last year. Of course, the quarterback had some of those errors himself.
Right.
But you need that quarterback's best friend, and I think he's got that with 2 starters because you're going to call Mosley that as well. And I think they've got 3 guys that can get vertical of those 3 for different reasons. Some of it with savvy, some of it with speed, some of it with even if he's covered, he's still open because you can just throw it up and Coleman's going to go get it. You have a lot of size with those starting 3. Mosley is big. Mosley's bigger than Wingo from what I've heard. I haven't stood next to him. I've stood next to Wingo, and he's a big old dude. Coleman is long, so you got some real size out there. But also, yeah, Mosley's got sort of a tight end wide receiver skill set. He's going to be reliable. Do really smart things in zone coverage. I just love it. And then you got a lot of complementary parts behind him that are waiting to develop. Khalil Lockett, Bishop, who's going to play somewhere in some capacity, and then I'm as big a fan as Coach on McCutcheon. So it's a really good group. If you look at it compared to last year, I think we're also at the same time we're underselling the improvement in experience over last year. Last year, DeAndre Moore was the elder statesman as a junior. Now they've got 3 juniors that would be starting based on this, and then you've got McCutcheon, more experience, Lockett coming on. Burkhalter, who is the epitome of experience. So experience goes a long way. We talk about the change in the experience from the opening day starting group at offensive line to what it's going to be in 2026. Well, it's a big difference at wide receiver too, and that goes a long way in college football.
Well, and it's explosive and easy, right? So like explosive contested catch, that's easy for a quarterback. It's just basically a spot throw, right? And then you have easy yak, like Coach says, like just chunk it out to Wingo. So it's like you don't even have to work super hard as a quarterback to get these explosive plays too, which is really important. So if it's just, if it's a receiver that has to work across the whole damn field and it's going to take 4.5 seconds, then it's like, great. I don't care if you're explosive, you can't get to it. Right. You can throw fast, short, or deep. Intermediate, you have to hold the ball. These guys can win deep. These guys can win short. But yeah, it also just makes it easier on Arch, and Arch can make those throws, as we've seen. Unless it's mesh. Don't throw mesh, but that one sometimes. All right, before we keep going, guys, let's hear a word from Andre the Lawyer.
Texans know when you're injured, there's one name that gets results. Andre the Lawyer. Trust the team that has secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans win their injury cases. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, wrongful deaths. Don't let the insurance companies tell you what your claim is worth. Andre the Lawyer will fight for you. His principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait. Call 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. Contact info is in the description.
Andre, I would like to formally petition to sue the weather. I was walking my dog and I busted my ass so hard, dude. You know how normally there's like a whoa, 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 I'm falling? Yeah. I went from standing up to on the back of my shoulders. It knocked the air out of me.
Yeah.
Luckily, no one was around. I'm literally like, ugh, I can't even. I'm like, am I hurt? And then one of my little dogs comes and lays on my chest, like those videos where someone's getting picked up by an EMT and their dog's like protecting. My other dog takes off with the leash to try to go home. It was a bad scene, and I've been.
Have you checked with your neighbors to see if there's any ring camera? I need to see.
Dude, the first thing I fall, I'm like, is my back hurt? Because I also hit my head. Like I fell straight on my back and then hit my head. And my first thought was like, please, no one be around. Dude, I'm still like. The weird part is my back and my head don't hurt. My abs hurt because whenever I landed on the ground, it brought the air out of me so fast it like strained my core muscles. Yeah, dude, and my neck hurt. It was bad, dude. And like now I take a different route to walk my dogs because I'm scared of that part of the yard now, man. Oh, it was bad.
Nice.
Oh, it was not nice. All right. Texas could have early draft picks and their quarterback and starting wide receivers from the 2026 team and have new starters at quarterback in KJ Lacey, Dia, and Lockett, Bishop, Easton Royal in 2027.
Maybe.
It could.
I kind of want a Wingo to develop just enough where he's a stud in 26, but back in 2027.
Yeah.
I think Wingo's smart, going to play the long game. A lot of those guys are smart. Arch is smart. Trevor Gooseby smart. I think Wingo's got that too, unless he's just really an obvious first round pick. But I want to see Wingo kind of have a Chris Bell type of year this next year that the guy had at Louisville, and he's going to go second round, but then come back and work his way to being a first round pick. But look, the skill talent is stocked for a while.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a lot of guys. I think trait wise, if they put it together on film, can get drafted in first round from Texas next year, offense and defense. So,
man, why does everyone think height makes you a good player? Aaron Donald was 6 foot tall. Couple things. I agree with you, but also we can't look at one player that was 6 foot tall and say therefore it's a good trait. Aaron Donald is one of the most strongest, skilled players ever to exist, and most people just won't be able to develop that level of strength or skill. But I do agree with you. But normally height really, if you're evaluating, is a proxy for like arm length. So normally, and you do want arm length. Now there's guys that don't have it, sure. But generally you do, especially if you're a trench fighter. I think the number is the guy who gets hands on first between O-line and D-line win 80% of the time. So if you have longer arms, that is an advantage. And then also it's harder to evaluate. Like you didn't know Aaron Donald was going to do that after 6 years in the league. You're having to, you're trying to make, really what you're doing is you're trying to make sound financial investments. So you're going to bet on the index fund versus bet on the volatile biotech stock, right?
Yeah.
And so that it's a safety play because it's more likely if you're taller, you'll be fine, even though shorter guys have done it.
Donald is like the better version of Ed Oliver, where those guys are giant running backs. There's a huge advantage to moving like a running back at 285 pounds. And then his wingspan is that of somebody that's 6'5". So its wingspan is more, like he said, it typically correlates to some degree to height. With him, it doesn't. Same with Poona Ford. It doesn't matter that Poona Ford is 6 foot tall. He's got extremely long arms. And that's where it's at. You know, it's not about, you know, you're not taking them on with your head. You know, Donald's an extreme outlier. You know, for every Aaron Donald, the NFL is littered with guys that are 6'3", 6'4" in the trenches.
Yeah, Reuben Bain had shorter arms and he was dominant. Correct. We can name exceptions. Like it doesn't mean that you shouldn't, but it's just like I said, these guys are investing millions of dollars. Just think of it like a stock. You know, they're going to generally go with what they had seen work. Now you're going to get right sometimes, but also a lot of these guys are mental evals too. Like they outwork guys. You can't really solve for that.
Anybody that's got on the outlier side of the spectrum has some sort of compensatory trait that makes them a stud.
Often intangible and not able to evaluate.
Yeah, Reuben Bain has good feet and he's a powerful guy, and so he doesn't really care that you put your little arms on him. You know, I liken him to Ed Ingram, who had some really big years with the Chargers. Similar player. Those guys, they're outliers. You know, every sport has them, but if you see a guy like that, they have some sort of compensatory trait that's elite. You know, for some guys, you know, these little wide receivers, their shuttle is usually insane. Those guys will go sub 4 seconds in the shuttle. And so, you know, there's a lot of 5'10" guys running around there that have very good hands that can't sniff the NFL because they just don't have that otherworldly quickness.
Yeah, you hear coaches say all the time, you know, they can miss big, but if you miss on a short guy, man, that might cost you your job, right? So
That's the problem.
It's tough, man.
They're risk averse because if you go and stand on a table for a guy without safe traits and then they bust, then you look like an idiot. But meanwhile, the guy that went with the guy at 6'3" and he busted, he doesn't get in trouble.
Right.
So it's like it's this nonsense kind of group think. But the reality is like the turnover in those staffs, you get fired in 4 years anyways. And you don't want them to be able to be like, remember when we paid this player because he stood on the table. So a lot of it is like a social conditioning.
Yeah, Victor Santiago mentions Byron Murphy. I don't know why I didn't think of him. Byron Murphy, I often equated to a giant running back. Just has those body mechanics, that change of direction, the sort of footwork. Like he played running back growing up, but then he's as wide as a refrigerator. So when you get your hand on him, you're only getting your hand on like 1/10 of him because he's so freaking wide. He's just a huge dude, even though he's not tall. He takes up so much space. That there's it's like a running back where there's no place to tackle him. You drop your head, you get knocked out by his thighs. There's really no good place to put your hands on Byron Murphy because he's a chaotic mess and he's giant. Like he's violent, physical. And yeah, when I went to DeSoto that year, he came out with Shamar Turner. I said, geez, man, you guys got 2 NFL guys, because it was clear as day to me that after Byron just grew a little bit more, because he was stuck at like 5'10" for a while. He got up to about 6'1", 6'1"-ish, right around the Aaron Donald area. This guy's obviously an NFL player because he moves like a giant running back. Had the same feeling when I saw Ed Oliver as a sophomore in high school. I'm like, that guy's going to the NFL. I don't care if he's not tall.
Yeah. And I think there's some argument here, pointing out that like some great DTs are not tall. And if we take away the outliers, I mean, I'm with your argument. There's a part of me that I think height is overvalued if you're not measuring arm length, because it's a leverage position.
Right.
So it's like those guys can get under offensive linemen that are especially not athletic enough to bend well at the waist and stuff like that. So I do think there's something to a shorter guy if they're really aggressive and they can pop you. It's tough. I would have nose tackles and I would do center that would just basically be at my knees and like a just 4-down technique. It's like those guys are hard to stop too. Like there's something to it. So I agree. There's some like traditional traits analysis that I think you could start to challenge more at certain positions. I don't look at height necessarily anymore. I have a minimum height requirement in offensive line, and it's about 6'2", and that's purely just going through like 3 years of like guard tape. The smallest one's 6'2", and then they'll go up to 6'6". So it's like I have a minimum threshold generally, but I'm really just looking for skill. I don't really care if you're 6'6" or 6'2" once you meet a kind of minimum threshold.
Compensatory traits, those guys that everybody says need to move to guard. We heard about Kelvin Banks. Kelvin Banks has a lot of compensatory traits, even if he doesn't have like the monster 35-inch arms that they're looking for.
Yeah, the evaluators were so wrong. They're like, well, he's going to go to guard in the NFL, and all of us were like, man, sometimes just the average fan that watched the player for 4 years has such a better feel than throwing on all 22 for a day.
Yep.
So that's a big thing. I want to ask you guys, what do you think, and this will be on the spot, but what do you think are traits when you guys look at players that are just overvalued, that are like traditionally wise to look for, but you guys don't care as much about?
Probably straight line speed. It kind of depends on the position. Running back is straight line speed for sure, because they're so infrequently running in a straight line.
Yeah.
Everybody fell in love with Tonio Carter back in the day at first, and it's like, okay, it's great if the lane is there. What happens when the lane isn't there? So at running back, I'm looking for the natural, feet, vision, and balance. That's the stuff that you either have or you don't. And if you have it, you got yourself a running back. And then from there, you hope that they have that speed, right? You want them to have some sort of speed, but it's really quickness to and through the hole, as they say at running back. So it kind of depends on the position.
Yeah.
But straight line speed is even overrated for wide receivers unless you're just throwing it up every time.
I was going to say, yeah, unless you play in the veer and shoot, I don't care about straight line speed at receiver, right? Can you get open when it's time one-on-one on third down? Like, can you work in the box? Like Eric just mentioned about the guys that get drafted, like, you look at the shuttle time, like Danny Scudero, like, he's going to get open and quick. Wes Welker type guys, like, some of the best route runners get open. Jerry Rice wasn't the fastest, right? So it doesn't matter if you can.
You see that video where Colorado was like hyping up his 40 time, and it was like a 4.5 something.
It was 4.5.
And I was like, "What are you guys? That's a horrible 40." But the point is, Scudero will get open. It doesn't matter. It's a quickness thing. But it was also weird just to put out a video hyping his 40 when it was not a fast 40. It was very weird. Same thing. Receivers have to be fluid and have good hands. Yeah, evaluate the hands first.
Yes,
evaluate hands first. Because you can get better at catching, but not significantly better. Like it's the jug, because I hate jugs machines. Unless you're doing sits, like sit down routes, that's not football in context.
Right.
It's like if you can come up with a machine where he can run meshes and hit you at the same time, sure, but jugs is not the answer there unless you're running one specific route. So you got to evaluate hands first.
People are born with a certain coordination that allows them to do crazy things. I watch a lot of pool, and those guys, their coordination for that is otherworldly. Golfers have a certain coordination that you either have it or you don't. And the same coordination, can you hit a baseball? You can develop that skill over time, but not everybody is born with the bat speed it requires or the vision. And same with tracking a baseball. Like this is why Jonah Williams is such a ridiculous athlete, because he can do it all.
Yeah.
But same, you either have the hand-eye coordination requisite to play football at a high level, or you don't. And then you have guys that take it to the even next level, like Cam Coleman has. He had some drops this year, but half the time he's only using one hand. That guy has just an otherworldly skill set. And then other things that come into it, right? Big hands matter. Big hands make it easier to catch the football. They make it easier to throw the football in cold weather. So I mean, it all matters to some degree, but some of it is overrated. But catching the ball, you either have that coordination or you don't. I played high school with a guy that had amazing hand-eye coordination, amazing, but he didn't have anything else. So you still got to have the other stuff. But hand-eye coordination, you either have it or you don't.
Well, I think about it, like I played at Denton Ryan, right? And it's a big feeder school, right? Like we all played football and little league, and we would play after. All the kids that were good when we were 7 playing at the park were good in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And like the ones that weren't, myself, I was like 7, like I think I'm going to play slot, and they were like, all right, man, they'd let you. But yeah, I was going to offensive line, right? But I just remember all those kids that were good receivers when we were 7 turned into the star receivers on Denton Ryan. And so there's some of it there too, that you have to, I'm not anti traits, but I think you do have to try to sort for value, and that becomes much more difficult when you're hanging out in the 3-star range. And like these guys get to talk to recruits. That's a huge advantage in their eval, right? They get to know home life. Is the kid smart? I don't. I can just look at, do they do the right thing or not on the field? So I don't even, in a way it helps me because I have no bias towards anything besides the technique. But a lot of ways it hurts me too, because I don't know what they're like off the field, and that's sometimes equally important.
Yeah, Joseph Osai, I knew was going to be a star because, man, he was talking major trash to his offense. And I go, damn, Joe, these are your own teammates. He goes, man, if I can get them fired up, they're going to bring out the best in me too. They're going to play harder and make me better. I'm like, already check that box. And then 5 minutes after he's on campus, Joseph Osai is making noise. He's still has a lot to learn, but he's going to be a stud. But that guy was just wired a certain way that if you didn't know him well, you would say, all right, well, he doesn't have the greatest size and, whatever. And I ended up ranking him quite high because I knew that, I liked the traits and whatever. I think he ran like a 4.9 in a very cold camp setting. And I think that had a lot of people down on him. But if you knew how that guy was wired, you would never doubt that guy was ever going to make it to the NFL.
Yeah. And Eric's pointed out too, which is savvy. Like when you're watching technique, why is it wrong? Is it because they're simply not athletic enough, and so they have to basically try to cheat technique to even get to the spot?
Yeah, we saw that a lot.
Versus, or are they athletic enough and they're just not being coached well, or are they not a hard worker or whatever? Right. But you have to figure that out, because sometimes the technique's wrong because you're asking a subpar athlete to do a technique that an NFL player would do, and they're not NFL players. But that's the trick too, is finding out, is it just simply because their feet are slow is why they're leaning, or did they just, should you take this guy and coach him up? That's the fun part of all of it, for sure. All right,
I'll never forget Christian Gonzalez. Yikes, man. Whew. Everybody thought he couldn't play corner, or some people thought he couldn't play corner. Like, man, please, he had it, but we see what happened.
I was wrong on him, but I didn't know him all that well. I was kind of just going off the Texas eval, like, hey, why aren't you guys going after him? Because I would have prioritized them even as a just a DB, whatever. But I didn't see this type of stardom for him.
What do y'all think is the hardest position to evaluate?
Quarterback, probably.
Take that away. That doesn't even count. Quarterback is such a crapshoot, like position wise.
It's
running back the easiest for me. Running back by a mile is easiest for me.
Yeah, running back is easy. It's still going to be a position that involves the head that's going to be tough, like inside linebacker or safety.
Is tough.
And the problem with linebackers, a lot of them come from playing outside. Like you just wrote a good article about a guy named Jaden Nelson, right?
Yep.
From Langham Creek.
Langham Creek.
That guy's tape is really fun. He's long. He's athletic. He's on easy mode playing in space. Well, I mean, that's not going to be his position in college. So now I've got to go to Langham Creek and learn about this kid and say, hey, look, how does he see the game? Because he's playing like almost like a modified safety role, kind of like Leon Galafau played as a junior in high school, where he's just it's almost impossible to read and understand how he's going to read the box. And so that's obviously extremely important for playing linebacker. So the kid, there's a high variability in how good this kid can be based on my limited knowledge of him. The tape obviously has got all the skills in the world, looks like a middle-class Riley Pettijohn, all that stuff. maybe Ty Anthony Smithish, but Ty Anthony was a little bit better, easier eval because he played in the box. And Ty is still a little bit of a work in progress. So linebacker to me is probably the toughest, just because so many of them play outside or just athletic stuff rather than doing stuff with their head.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I don't see many middle linebackers or inside linebackers at the high school level anymore. They're all athletes. Either they're rushing the pass or they're playing safety, and they're going to play linebacker.
This is why sorry to cut you off, but
it's
sparking my memory here. The reason I wanted Tyler Atkinson this time last year when everybody was writing him off to Georgia was because he's that rare linebacker that did play in the box, but is also an elite athlete. So you get to see that, hey, that guy at Missile he's not just heat seeking and being thrown in a direction, following whatever the coaches are telling him. He's out there playing the position naturally. And that's, last year I think I write the same thing about linebacker every single year. It's probably time to write it again. But this time last year, we were talking about, hey, if you can get your one Justice Terry, who would it be? And I said Atkinson. And it was for those reasons. He's a much cleaner evaluation at linebacker than you typically find.
Well, also, like, schools generally, if you have an athlete that special, they don't put them at linebacker. So it's like you don't even get to see them at that position. It's more of a reps and experience position. Your hardest one is tight end. They are big and fast in high school, but then they transition onto that next level. Coach, you know about tight ends. What do you think? Are they hard to eval?
It's hard. I mean, everybody's
not a receiving tight end,
not a receiving tight end, a blocking tight end. Most of them are, I don't know, maybe they're rushing the pass or like in tight ends their position. It's kind of hard at tight end too, because who uses a traditional tight end in high school? Everybody wants to flex out and play in space, unless you can convert a basketball player and convince him, hey man, you're a tight end, you're not going to play in the post at 6'3", 6'4" in college, right? So everybody can't be Charles Barkley, but if you can kind of convince those guys, it's kind of hard to evaluate. But you want to find those big bodies from the basketball court, probably.
Yeah, that's hard because you most often see them playing wide receiver in high school, or even if they're labeled a tight end, they're playing wide receiver. Right. Even when they're gigantic, they have them doing that. But this is where I've got my Joseph Ostai story is Nick Townsend, because I lived at Dekaney there for a few months, just falling in love with that guy as a football player because he's so hard-nosed, he's wired. You could have played that guy at edge or whatever. He even played off-ball linebacker a little bit. But I had zero reservations about him just because I know he's physical. I know he's football 100% of the time, has the mindset to go and be physical. And then on top of it, he's got all the soft traits where he would have been he'd be a good college tight end, even if he wasn't, a sub 100 or sub 11 second 100 guy. Yeah. So he's got all the traits you're looking for. But, it's rare that you get to know a guy and they're wired like Nick, and then they're also as athletically gifted as Nick. So tight end can present an issue when most of them are flexed out, and you're going to have to ask them. It's a huge projection. Are you going to be able to take on a defensive end? Do you even want to? With Nick wants to. That shows up in his play.
Yeah, a strong case could be made that some of the greatest football players in history did not necessarily have heart playing their position, even at the NFL level. Sure, not all players, quote unquote, love the game. Like, some of it is they were born in an incredible body and it's been a way to make money and stuff like that. But when you're doing your eval, you want heart because that guy is going to impress coaches. Coaches like heart. So he'll get on the field faster. Also, he's motivated. He should pick up the playbook faster. That's why you sort for it. Now, sure, there's incredible athletes that, not every football player loves football. That's true. But still, why would you? You're not gonna sort for guys that don't have heart.
Yeah, that's another outlier conversation. The least physical position player in the history of the NFL is also in the Hall of Fame, Dion. But that guy's a once in a generation athlete. And so, the people that make it to the NFL without heart are typically going to be extremely gifted players, and they still got there in spite of it, not because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, head over to Inside Texas, and you can join for $1 for new members. We'd love to see you over there. Join the community, recruiting, portal winding down, but also a ton of analysis coming up as we're teaching Muschamps defense from old Ian and Paul. Everyone, have an absolutely wonderful day. We got more content coming for you. Evan and Nash show, and then reheat. So stay locked in, guys, and have a wonderful day. Welcome, y'all.